And to me, this is truly something that's Catholic. As a Catholic, we do an examination of conscience. And a lot of times for me, it's always the way I was trained is you look for things that you don't do or things that you've done wrong. And in essence, what I've done with my staff is I said, do an examination of conscience at the end of your day and tell me what it is you did good. And by asking them to do something good, it was amazing what happened interiorly as a group. It brought us together. It actually united us much more, even though we're in different places. It actually did a lot to unite us. So to me, that is something that's authentically Catholic, and it speaks about the things that I try to do as a manager and as a supervisor.
Welcome to Apostolicam Actuositatem, an interview series on effective apostolic activity for the 21st century. My name is Christopher Pereira. I'm the CEO of Tepeyac Leadership.
Hello, everybody, and I'm Andreas Widmer, Director of the...
And today we are thrilled to be speaking with Andrew Pittelkau, who is coming to us all the way from Seattle. And we just want to get to know Andrew, again, as part of this interview series on effective apostolic activity. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Christopher, and Andreas, for inviting me to this interview today. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, Andrew. And I wonder if you could get started by just sharing a little bit about your background. And I know you're a married man, you're a family man, and also what you do professionally.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Chris, I live here in Washington State, so northwest corner of the United States here. I live in Olympia, which is just slightly south of Seattle. I work for Pierce County, which is the county in between where I live and the Seattle. So I work for a municipal government. Between this working for the state government and then also the municipal government, I have 23 years of experience in working in government. The actual work I do is I'm a fiscal manager over a program, facilities management, and I manage all of the fiscal aspects of our buildings, our pieces of property. So I have contracts, we purchase just about, if you can think of it, we probably purchase it. Utilities, paint, nails. We have capital construction projects. So we'll purchase buildings or we'll sell buildings, properties. So my job is to help to manage staff who do all of that work. Okay. And then to make sure that we are in compliance with all of the state and federal laws and then our local laws that doing all that work.
Can you tell us a bit, Andrew, about maybe your spiritual journey and how that ends up intertwining with the work that you're doing in a sense of, I mean, you landed there obviously by God's will. You've been doing this for a long time and you're good at it. What is your journey and how did that end up where you are today?
Andreas, that's a great question. Actually, I will start with the most immediate and then kind of walk it back. As I was preparing for this interview today, and I commute, so I drove into work, and during my commute, I spent some time praying and asking God about, what should I be looking for in this interview? And what should I be talking about? And one of the things that I'm doing in work right now is part of the leadership cohort and learning about leadership, and so that we can be the best managers possible. And I'm right at the end of the program. And one of the things that we're doing is we have a 360-degree view of ourselves. So we're asking other people to view us. And so my prayer was, as I was driving to work the other day, was, how is this Catholic? How is this view important, or how does it become spiritual? Because it seems like a very secular viewpoint. And as I was praying about it, what came to mind to me was Jesus when he was in Capernaum with the apostles, and he asked them, who do you say that I am? And the response was ultimately by Peter, you are the Christ. And for me, as I was sitting down, it was a real aha moment for me. And I go, okay, in this 360-degree view of who I am, what do I want people to say? And the response to me ultimately was, I want somebody to tell me that I've lived an authentic Catholic life. And to me, that's how I approach my work, is there's an authenticity. I want to be Catholic in the things that I do and how I respond to it, about how I give direction to my staff. how I respond to other people, how, do I respond to people with dignity? So sort of walking this all back, sort of to the very beginning, I've had many years where I haven't been in fiscal all of this time. I've been a fiscal manager for, or working in the fiscal world since about 2008, 2009. I spent a small piece of that outside of government, although still working with government. And I do have to preface, I have only worked for the executive branch of government. I have not worked for the legislative nor the judicial. And it is important because in the branches of government are very, very different. So during this time, I have stayed connected with my church. I participate in the different activities that come up, and those are important to me. They've helped to keep me centered in my work life, because there's ups and downs that go with all of that. And then sort of in the longer history before I started working for government, I am probably the least qualified person to be in the fiscal world. And what do I mean by that? I went to the seminary for my college, and then I spent a year in a theological seminary down at Mount Angel. And my educational background is philosophy. So I've learned how to talk to people. I've learned how to communicate. And it's really those communication skills that are really helping me to be successful in the financial world. And then God has given me some great gifts and graces outside of that. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and I've had a lot of support from people. Every time there seems to be a roadblock, it's as if God intervenes and something comes up. And I've worked a myriad of number of different types of jobs in different areas. So as a fiscal manager, because of all these places I've been and all these things that I've done, I have a wealth of tools to draw from. So whether it be contracts, whether it be data analysis, implementations of systems, these are all things that I've done. Sitting down at a desk and just doing copious amounts of work. It's all of that has led me to where I am today.
And the next question that I have, you've really given us a very good picture, I think, of what your journey has been like. But I want to hear of the challenges, because we all have them, right? We all have those struggles, those sometimes crosses. So can you share a little bit about what these have been for you, and how you have responded to them?
Huge numbers of crosses. I've been told that the work I'm doing is not important. I've had employers not working to try and keep me working for them. They haven't, helped to give me the pay, a commensurate pay to other members. As an example, they would hire people off the street making more money than what I would be making. So there were all kinds of challenges like that. In my current world, it's working with people who don't provide enough information to questions. And so as a manager, I'm moving in a direction, but I don't have enough information. It's how do I respond to not having information, not having a budget that was underfunded? Huge problem. Frankly, we changed the system. We went in, and in the fiscal world, I typically look really long term. So I made a case, and we changed the way we get funded in our department. Mammoth change. Just the amount of money that we were able to secure and actually bring in to fund our programs was just, put it in the context, Chris, it'd be like giving you a 25% pay increase in your salary. It not insignificant. In government, that's unheard of.
Yeah. Andrew, how do you, I like the story that you mentioned about Peter, and in a sense, we are Peter here on earth today to actually say, who are you? Who do you say I am? how do you bring Christ into your work? Like, you see, one would say, well, the numbers you're doing has nothing to do with Jesus at all, but they certainly do, and they probably do much more to you in how you're seeing. How do you bring God into that? And then how do you turn and sort of respond to your call to holiness and to your apostolic activity in a way that somebody looks at you and says, yes, this is a disciple of Christ?
Yeah. So one, I start my day out with prayer. I do, and I try to pray during the day, and it's really a focus, and it's important to dealing with all the challenges and the things that happen during the day. The best example I can give that really elevates or answers your question is when COVID occurred and we started working remotely, and so my staff started going home and working from home, and frankly, I hardly or rarely have seen them over the past 3 years, 3.5 years. And so one of the things that I've asked them to do was to send me an email at the end of the day and tell me that they're logging off. And one, this is to help me to not give them work at the end of the day. It really, really important, because I don't want them to go log off at the end of the day and go, oh, I've got more work, and then come into the work feeling, under pressure. And not too long ago, one of the things that I did was I started in that email, I asked them, tell me what it is that you are doing to be successful during the day. And to me, this is truly something that's Catholic. As a Catholic, we do an examination of conscience. And a lot of times for me, it's always the way I was trained is you look for things that you don't do or things that you've done wrong. And in essence, what I've done with my staff is I said, do an examination of conscience at the end of your day and tell me what it is you did good. And by asking them to do something good, it was amazing what happened interiorly as a group. It brought us together. It actually united us much more, even though we're in different places. It actually did a lot to unite us. So to me, that is something that's authentically Catholic, and it speaks about the things that I try to do as a manager and as a supervisor.
Thank you so much for that, Andrew. It's most of the people that watch our interviews are young professionals who are still trying to understand how to best integrate their faith into their professional lives. So something that's very helpful for them, a question that I ask very often is, can you just tell us what your plan for spiritual life daily, weekly looks like? You go to adoration, do you pray the rosary? About what time, what's the first thing you do when you get up? This kind of thing, so that we get an idea of what your routine is and how you try to make God an important part of it.
Yeah, and that's great, Chris. Thanks for asking. So one, the focal of my week is always about going to Mass. It's when am I going to go to Mass, and having that as the central part of my week. From there, I wake up in the morning. My prayer life is, I would say, is very simple. I typically say a lot of Hail Marys throughout the day. I have, actually right next to my computer here, I have my little shrine that I have set up that has a crucifix on it. I have St. Francis on a cross. I have my Mary. I have a couple relics of Peter and Paul. They are important to me. They are a way to help keep me centered during the day. And I find myself during the day having a conversation with God, seeing these blessed sacramentals in my life and reorienting it towards Christ. And then throughout my house, and then also in my backyard, I have a beautiful backyard. I've got a statue of St. Francis out there. And so when I look out my back door, I go and sit on my deck, it's always focused towards how can I be more like St. Francis? And it's important to me to pray throughout the day. And in some ways it's very informal, but it's about that relation. For me, it's about having that personal relationship with Jesus and spending that time. So it's not like I sit down and spend a lot of time doing focused prayer, like saying the rosary. I don't do that all the time. I do that on occasion. My prayer life has come and gone as far as from a focal standpoint, having set time during my life. But those important times where it has been a focus, greater focus has been important. And then what I find now is it's really that what's important for me is Mass, and then taking that time in the morning to say prayers, taking that time during the day to reconnect, and then at night doing the same, taking that time, maybe as I work on a puzzle, taking that time to sit down and refocus, be in the car when I'm commuting to work, taking that time to focus in on that personal conversation with God. To me, that's what's important. And it's, in my view, it's worked very well for me. But yeah, it's amazing what happens when you just listen.
And especially, I mean, your commitment to St. Francis is a beautiful thing. And I can see that this runs deep with you. What gives you the most joy? You know, I mean, the key about us is they should know us by our love and by our joy. And what I just want to help the listener or the viewers to tap into that a bit. And I have a sense there's a deep joy in you. And can you talk a bit about what spiritual attitude or practice creates that, and what creates the joy for you?
Wow, that's awesome, Andreas. To me, the joy is knowing that God has always been there. When we go back to the other question you asked me about what the difficulties are in life and from a work perspective, and frankly, what I've found in my life is there's always failures or difficulties that run deep with people. We're human. We make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. I make them daily. But what I've found is that God has always been faithful to me. When all seems to be lost, it's as if God says, here. And it's not in a small way he does it. He does it in a miraculous way. It's an overwhelming sense of love. One of the things that happened to me this week, again, as I was preparing for this, I had a longtime friend of mine sent me an email, and we hadn't talked in a while, and she just texted me and said, I'm praying for you. And it's like, wow, God, you use this person as an instrument. And how touched I was by just somebody reaching out to me and saying, hey, I'm praying for you. And can I imitate that? Do I want to imitate that? Do I just want to bask in this light that God so moved this person? To me, those are the important parts of my life, is regardless of the struggles, the difficulties, God has always remained faithful to me.
With that note, we have come to the end of our time, but thank you so much for opening up yourself to us and to our viewers. Again, thank you for everybody that's been watching. We hope that these profiles that we present you are an opportunity to inspire you and your own spirituality. So please share, comment, and like our video. And Andrew, thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much, Christopher and Andreas. Great to meet you, Andreas, for the first time. Christopher, thank you so much. I do so much appreciate this opportunity today.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And thank you all who are watching this. It's really a privilege to have your attention for a few minutes during your busy day. We appreciate that. And we'll see you next time on this podcast. Thanks for helping us inspire effective apostolic leadership for Catholic professionals in the world.